We're going to take a look at the right order to make a quiz today. Now, quizzes is kind of a long and complicated area to look at, but we can take a look in the quizzes area just by clicking on quizzes in the black toolbar. And you'll see a couple of tabs up top here. We're actually going to start in the question library. You can see I've got some stuff over here, but really what I want to do is I want to build everything in the question library and then get it into my quiz. So in here, the best way to do this is actually to start and make a section here. So I'm going to go ahead and make a section. We can name it whatever we want. I highly recommend that you name it by either week or quiz or unit, whatever is going to make sense so that you know exactly what is in here. That's going to be the best plan of action here. So you can add a message or private comments that go with this, but I generally just leave those be and just go ahead and save with my name. We can see here's quiz 2. I'm going to go ahead and click on the section, and now we can see this is empty. This is where I can create my questions. This is the best way to organize. You'll notice over on the left is kind of a table of contents or a hierarchy here. You can also see the breadcrumbs up top here that tell us exactly where we are at the moment and the title here. There's a lot of question types in here. If you're interested in any of these, go ahead and consult the guide that's going to be down below as well as in the quiz section of the faculty learning community. For the moment, we're going to go with a multiple choice question because that covers a lot of ground as far as making quiz questions. Up top, you can put in a title. Note that this is optional. If you do not input a title, whatever you put in for the question text is going to be the question title. Now, for points, this is required. The default is 1 point. If you're doing, say, multiple choice plus some long answer, short answer questions, you can go ahead and scale these points accordingly. Maybe your multiple choice are 1 point and your long answer are 5 points to kind of weight those a little bit differently within the quiz. Difficulty, again, same kind of thing, but this is optional. You can rank these 1 to 5, set them as a different difficulty. Now, the next thing that you need to do is enter question text. You can enter your question text, you can insert images here, you can even embed a video if you need to. This area is pretty flexible. It's the same HTML editor as in the rest of D2L. Now if you have an image that's like a graph or anything like that, it's better to do it through the insert an image that's down here at the bottom. Put your text up top and insert the image down here. Do note that if you use this, a description is going to be required for that for any student who may need that accommodation. Down from there you get to choose the enumeration of the answers. So they'll be enumerated with capital letters, lowercase letters, Roman numerals, lowercase Roman numerals, or Arabic numerals. You can also choose no enumeration. The default is just capital letters there. Style, again, is going to be an option for your answers. Do you want them up and down, A, B, C, D, in a vertical line, horizontal across A, B, C, D, or a drop-down menu? The default is vertical, and that's perfectly fine. If you want, every time a student takes the quiz, whether it be the same student or a different student, you can have D2L automatically randomize the answers. So meaning if we put the answers in a certain order here in boxes 1 through 4. That does not mean they will be in the same order when the student takes that. So I think that's a good standard practice there. Then you need to enter your answers here. I skipped one here. There we go. And then, so the first column is your answers. Default is 4. You can always hit the trash can on the right hand side to get rid of an entry if you don't need that many. You can also add options up top by popping in how many options you need here and clicking add option. Now the second column here is weight, and that is a percentage. So for the correct answer you need to go into the weight column here and enter 100. If you enter 1 or 10, it's going to give your students 1% of the point value assigned to this question, which will probably make your students relatively unhappy when they get to the end and have a 0.1 out of out of 10 for their final grade. So just make sure you put in the correct percentage for these in multiple choice questions. You can give feedback for each individual answer. That will be viewable in a submission view, which we'll go over in just a little bit. And down at the bottom, you can actually enter a hint, which we'll go over how you enable those in a little bit, and then overall question feedback. So this is something, again, that students will see in a submission view here. Those are completely optional. Down at the bottom, you can save and copy, which will copy this exact question, including the question text, answers, and weight, all of that, and allow us to edit a new copy of the question. Save and new, which will create a new multiple choice question. You can preview your question to take a look at what it looks like here. So we can see what it looks like to a student, and down below what it would look like when grading this, as well as any comments or hints down here that we've included. So once we're done with that, I'm just going to click done, scroll back down, hit save. Okay, now we can see here's the question text that is now the title of this question. And we're actually going to jump back into the quizzes area and actually make a quiz now. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is make a new quiz here. Click on new quiz. I'm going to call this quiz 2. And I prefer to actually go through and set all of my settings before I go in and do the add edit question here. So you can categorize your quizzes. This is only within the quizzes area that these categories have any effect. You can add a description. Notice that you have to turn this on in order for it to work. An introduction, again, you have to turn it on in order for it to work. These are both displayed on the initial pages to a student before they begin the quiz. You can also add a header or footer, or both. Remember, you have to turn these on. That's helpful if you're going to provide students kind of maybe a cheat sheet or a set of formulas that need to be known throughout the entire exam. These will appear, a header will appear at the top of every page of the exam, a footer will appear at the bottom. Down at the bottom here, for the quiz, you have to check allow hints if you want the hints that you typed in when we created the questions to work. You can disable right-click or disable pager and alerts if you choose to. Do note that disable right-click doesn't particularly work very well on a Mac, and there are shortcuts that students can use to print questions to kind of circumvent this one. And note on the last one, disable pagers and alerts, that will disable email, and if a student does not submit their quiz, they will not be able to access their email within D2L at all. So be careful with these, or just make sure you tell your students if you start a quiz, you need to submit it. Last one is a notification email. You can put in an outside email address, so your frontrange.edu email address if you choose to, in order to get an email every time someone completes an attempt of this quiz. I'm not going to do that, but I'm going to go ahead and scroll back up. We'll take a look at restrictions. What we need to do here is make sure that first off we change this quiz to active. If it remains in inactive status, students will not be able to take it ever. And I always change that to active and then set a start date that's going to be in the future. So I'm going to have my students start this on Monday, we'll say at right about midnight they'll be able to take it. So Sunday at midnight, Monday morning, real early. And I'm going to give them about a week. So we'll look, there's the 14th, here's the 21st, and I'm going to go ahead and say midnight again. So it gives them a full week to take this, start date and end date. It will not open until this date and time. It will not be available after this date and time for students. You can choose to display this in calendar. Make sure that if you choose to use the calendar that you put everything in there as a one-stop shop for your students. Otherwise, just go ahead and leave that unchecked. Release conditions we won't go over here. If you have questions about that, go ahead and head to the release conditions tutorial. We do have information on using release conditions. If you want to enter a password for your students to take the quiz, go ahead and enter the password in the password field. This may occasionally be collapsed. You just need to hit expand optional advanced restrictions. We don't recommend using IP restriction. That would be to limit access to the quiz to one computer or a group of computers, but that is not something that we currently support. Under timing, we can enforce a time limit or leave it at no time limit. If you enforce a time limit, enter the time in minutes in the first box and enter a minimum grace period of 1 minute in that box. You can up this to whatever you would like to. Generally, the standard is about 1 minute. For late behaviors, make sure you check the correct box of how you want the quiz to behave once a quiz is marked as late. So the first one is quiz is flagged as late and the student can continue working. This means everything the student does is saved. It just populates in your list as late, and it will give you a nice red warning that this quiz was submitted late, and it gives you a time of how long it was submitted late. The second option is probably my preference. Quiz is flagged as late and student is prevented from making further changes. After the time limit you set and the additional grace period, it tells the student, hey, your quiz is late, please submit it. It will not save any changes that the student makes after those 121 minutes or whatever your time limit is, and the student is prompted to submit the quiz. The last one seems maybe a little cruel, but you can go ahead and make that decision for yourself. It allows the student to keep working, but it gives the student a 0 after the specified limit. So they get the 120 minutes, they get the 1 minute grace period, and then we can actually pop in another late limit here. And after the grace period ends, it gives them maybe 1 more minute or up to 120, so another 2 hours. And then it just gives them a 0. It doesn't tell the student anything about that. It just gives them a 0. So make sure you just select whichever one you're most comfortable with here. A good standard is that middle option there. Special access, if you need to add a student to special access because they missed a quiz or need accommodations, you can do that in the special access area down here. If you have questions about using special access, we do have a tutorial on that as well. Let's scroll back up to the top. I'm going to swap to the next tab. It'll save all my changes there. You'll note down at the bottom here. And I'm going to go through the options on this page. Then we're going to go back and we're going to go ahead and add our questions here. So if you have all multiple choice questions, you probably want to select automatic grading. You can enter your grade item here if you choose to. If you haven't added one, you can click add grade item and it'll populate a box for you to enter that information. And then you should also probably select allow automatic export to grades, which means quizzes will grade everything and then automatically put that grade into the grade item that you've selected here. If you have long answer questions, I generally will still allow automatic export to grades, but I will uncheck allow attempt to be set as graded immediately upon completion. And you'll notice it gives a warning up here as well. The reason I uncheck this is because with long answer questions that require manual grading, you will have to go in and set them as graded and give them a score. If we allow everything to be set as graded, it automatically gives students a 0 on long answer questions. So I tend to avoid that and just say, I'm not going to do this, and we'll actually go in and grade the attempt for the student. Scroll down a little bit, we can pop a rubric in there if we want to. We can set a number of attempts here. So I've got 1 to 10 and then unlimited. So I'll go ahead and pop 3 in there. So we can see kind of the advanced options here. Overall grade calculation, we can do highest attempt, lowest attempt, and average, or we can do first or last attempt here. You can kind of do branching as far as quiz attempts go, and you can say, okay, if the minimum or maximum percentage is left blank, it will not apply, so we can leave those blank. Or if we want a student to get a minimum of a certain percentage in order to get attempt 2, we can pop it in this first box. If we want them to get a certain maximum in order to open attempt 2, we can pop it in the second box. And the same goes for attempt 3 as well, so you can kind of see how that works. So once I'm done here, again, you can save and close. I'm just going to go back up and go to properties real quick. I'm actually going to add my questions now. So we're back on the properties area, and I'm going to click add edit questions. You notice that this is really similar to the question library. I'm just going to go ahead and import my questions from the question library. This first box is always going to stay the same for you. The second box, source collection, we can see the question library at the very top here. We want to go ahead and select that. and then we choose a section, and we made the quiz 2 section with our question in it. So we're going to go ahead and say that, and we'll go ahead and check the box next to the question or questions that we want. If you want everything within a section, you can just check the box next to the section, and it will bring in all of the questions contained within there. Go ahead and save, and now we can see in quiz 2 I've got my section, I've got my question, and the quiz is now ready for students to take.